Hello, Texans. I'm Susana, and this is the Susana Gibb Show. Welcome back, everybody, on this podcast. We like to keep you up to date on all things that are going on in the Lone Star State, who's doing what, where, maybe even why. Ask the burning questions like, is LinkedIn even social media, or is it just Facebook in a suit? I mean, when I think about social media, I think about Instagram's flawless selfies, TikTok dance challenges, and funny memes. Like the meme I got from my mom this morning that was 10 years ago, funny on Facebook. But then there's LinkedIn, this place where people wear blazers in their profile pictures and use words like synergy. And the fact that nobody's posting cat videos or vacation pics, and there's no totally real Russian models trying to befriend my dad on LinkedIn. But today, we've got Roots and Vine Marketing here to help us figure it all out. And they've got some awesome strategies to help cut through the noise on social media, especially on LinkedIn, the land of professionals. So I'm breaking the norm today. I'm having a Lone Star beer. You know what they say, it's noon somewhere. So when I was in Savannah, they had this beer everywhere, and I never drink it. And so I just thought, well, I'm going to have some. And that's good. I like how they have Lone Star is the national beer of Texas, which makes my head a little bit confused, but I think it has to be a reference to how Texas can secede and we chose to be here and all that good stuff. Before we jump into today's episode, I'd like to mention our sponsor. Just, hold my beer while I'm a professional for a second, but I would like another one. Thank you. Our sponsor this week, Gibb Insurance Services. For those moments when you say, hold my beer, and decide I'm going to do a backflip on the trampoline, even though I haven't done one in 20 years, and you end up in the ER. We've got a policy for that. Home, auto, health insurance, life insurance, and Medicare. We help you protect your piece of Texas, one policy at a time. Go to gibbagencydallas.com for more information. Okay, now I can have my beer back. Dude, this is lighter. You drank some. Where's my second beer? Okay. Thank you. We are on with the show. All right, welcome to the show. Tell everybody who you are and what you do.
I'm going to let you go first.
No, you go.
Just being polite. So my name is Sarah Woods, and this is my husband, Josh Woods, on screen with me. We are the owners of Root and Vine, which is a marketing consulting firm that we created in order to try to help small and mid-sized businesses figure out what their brand looks like, sounds like, and figure out how to communicate that primarily in the digital realm that we all sort of live in now.
Well, that's super exciting. How did you guys come to this space of this is what we want to do now that we're grown up?
Well, I can say, just from my background, I have a lot of background in the marketing field. Just from my main job that I do as a marketing manager for an accounting firm. But, at the same time, Sarah also has this amazing background of communication and, content writing that it just felt like it was a marry of the two, other than the fact that we are married. But it married the two together, and we just felt like, this is something we can do. Let's get out there and help other people. And, we had a couple people that came to us just going, hey, will you help us with this and this? And we were like, sure, let's go ahead and try that out. And from there, it was like, well, let's go ahead and start a business surrounding this. And so that's how we just kind of started. And that's where we are today.
So I know it can be really overwhelming for a lot of people when they start to look at how do I even deal with social media? So, and while I think everybody's very familiar with Instagram or Facebook, as far as a business, go ahead and, treat me like I'm dumb and explain the differences, if you would, between Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, X, Twitter, whatever it is now.
And so something you have to consider when you're looking at the plethora of different platforms that exist and the fact that there are probably going to be more platforms that continue to show up is you have to really start off by figuring out what your brand and your business model and your target audience is going to be, because those platforms reach different audiences. They cater to different particular business aspects. So like, for example, I love Instagram. I'm one of those people that I rarely post stuff about my own family on Instagram, but I'll look at everybody else's stuff on Instagram. But if you are, for example, let's say that you're a real estate company. Instagram's a great platform for real estate because it's so visual. Things that don't translate on something like LinkedIn will translate beautifully on Instagram. And that really is the clientele that you're trying to reach, particularly if you're in residential real estate. People scrolling through will absolutely go,
I'm not even looking for a house. Yeah, I'm not even looking for a house, and I will stop and watch that house every time and go, oh, look at that, look at that, look at that. Yeah, that's a great point.
But you wouldn't do that on Facebook, right? And so on Facebook, you probably wouldn't bother to look through it that way. You definitely wouldn't do it on LinkedIn. So you have to ask yourself, what demographic am I trying to reach? What are the strengths or the particular components? So is the visual component really important to helping people to want to utilize my services or my product, and go from there? So like Instagram is great for a younger audience. Generally, you're talking, frankly, people probably about 16 maybe, although they tend to start, they're not as into Instagram now as they used to be. But usually you're looking more at, say, 20 to 45, 20 to 50 is probably your target demographic when you're looking at Instagram. Facebook's older than that. Facebook is more like 30 to 60 when you start looking at utilization. And then, of course, when you start talking about LinkedIn, it's different entirely.
My kids are like, Mom, Facebook is for old people.
Oh gosh, my kid, I don't think he even knows what Facebook is. Like, it's not even in his realm of existence.
No, most of the kids nowadays they're on the Snapchat still. I think that's, always going to be there. But
can you use Snapchat for business? Because I just feel like people doing their stories, and I don't even.
It depends on what it's really made for more influencer type marketing. I would say, like, if you're a business that's needing that, person who has the followership.
Like, here's my shirt. I bought this so-and-so. Yeah. I've got these amazing shoes. Blah. Okay.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. Yeah. But, going back to like something like LinkedIn, where I would say it skews more for your business to business, realm. So if you're a business trying to, from a service standpoint, then that's where LinkedIn would probably be your best bet.
I mean, I think I told you I had a Lone Star as I was shooting the intro, and it took me 3 takes to get it right. So I'm going to ask a dumb question, which might be made dumber because of this. But can you give me some examples of some B2B businesses on LinkedIn that would benefit from it? Because it's not coming to me.
Sure. So like, we even just within the last year and a half were approached by a brand new alternative dispute resolution firm, which is mediations. So they did legal mediations, trial prep, things like that. And so straightforward Google ads weren't what they were looking for, because they needed attorneys to come to them, judges to come to them. And so they weren't looking for mass marketing. They were marketing towards law firms and things like that. And so for them, LinkedIn made a good platform, because then they could connect with law firms, connect with courts, connect with legal organizations, mediation organizations, and try to get their name out that way, because they're not trying to reach somebody like me. They're trying to get into connection with law firms so that those law firms use them when they need mediation for some of the cases that they're involved in. So that's one example of a firm that we know that primarily LinkedIn was their best bet.
And I would say more of like your, professional services type thing. But what really LinkedIn is more for like things that's going to help your business, I would say. So if it's a professional service by, from a legal standpoint, insurance, does pretty well on it. Accounting does really well. But also what really has been doing the most is your high technology kind of companies. So IT type companies, software developers, things that is software that is going to help your business, grow and thrive. I think is, where a lot of those, but really a lot of it too. I mean, LinkedIn is noted, known for, recruitment as well, job postings, things like that. So, but
Some of
outside
my
of that,
best recruitment has come from LinkedIn, which is, I think that's the
yeah,
confusing part, right? Because you've got all these singular people on there promoting themselves, but to your point of like marketing to businesses, it makes it a little tricky for
yeah,
sure.
or just highlighting your own business as well.
Yeah.
Showcasing the fact that you have a business that, people want to come, work for or work with. So,
That makes sense. So what are some of the things that people can do on LinkedIn to kind of help stand out? Because obviously they're not going to post dance videos or
They could.
things like that, right?
I do think that there are a couple of things when it comes to LinkedIn specifically that are probably a little bit more in line with your goals if you're using LinkedIn for something like that. One of the keys to remember, though, is diversity is always a good thing in post on LinkedIn. So even though we laugh about posting dance videos, if you celebrate National Cookie Day at your firm that day, it's okay to have a couple of lighter posts mixed in with the more serious posts. It gives your brand a little bit of levity. It increases a little bit of additional engagement. So it's okay to have some diversity in your content. Some of the research and studies that have been done have shown that businesses that just put things out that are specific to here are the services we offer, here are the services we offer, here's the product we sell, can start to get tuned out by the viewers and by the people interacting with their feed because they go, okay, I get it. Here's what I understand. You do this. So it's good if you can diversify. So it's not a bad thing to go, we all had Taco Tuesday today. And you wouldn't want to do it all the time, but I know, right? But then every once in a while to post something that shows your brand is bigger than just the service you provide is a good thing. And it's good to diversify the types of tools that you're using on there. LinkedIn not only has the ability to post ads on there, but you can post polls where you get to engage and interact with your target audience, people who are already following you, but also with other individuals. That gives you important, valuable feedback from them, but it also gives you the chance to interact with them in a different way as well. They also have the ability to post articles, which can make you look like experts in your field, which is also really important.
All right, let's go back to polls for a second because I want to. So if we can go back to polls, if I were to do, let's use Taco Tuesday, for example, a poll about what is your favorite taco to celebrate Taco Tuesday. Would that be an example of a poll to try and get people to interact?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes,
And
okay.
even though I think a lot of people are afraid of stuff like that because they go, if I do this, then people are going to not take my business seriously or not take my brand seriously. But that's usually not the case. Generally, people go, oh, what a fun thing to ask. Oh, I definitely have opinions on what to put on my tacos. Like lettuce is bad. So people have definite opinions, and then you've shown a different side to your organization. So even if it's National Cookie Day and you're like, what's your favorite cookie or whatever. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I think it also shows the humanity side of your business.
Yeah.
And I think that's important. A lot of business will start to, I think we tend to get into that rut of tooting our own horn, look how great we are, instead of what is going to engage with your audience. And, back to your audience. And that, I think it's just the human aspect of your content really can help, increase, I guess, the viewership and the engagement that you can get on social media because people want to interact with you. And if you don't have something to interact with and it's stale and it's not breaking through what's called the noise, the digital noise of social media, then it's just going to be one of those ones that just gets scrolled past. I know a couple times where we're going back to like the funny, like funny videos, somebody dancing. The company I worked with, that we had somebody dressed up in Grinch and just ran across right here, and it was like a repeating, what is that called? I'm trying to remember what the phrase is, but it's just a repeating, a video clip that was just the Grinch going by, and it got so many likes, so many interactions, that that was fun. That was just showing the fun side of an accounting firm, right?
So speaking, now that you mentioned likes and interactions, because I think anybody who's posted anything on LinkedIn, right, you can see who's liked it, but you also can see how many impressions it had, as well as you can see comments. Would it be, what do you guys counsel people as far as, is it more important to get content out there consistently or less consistently with higher impressions, higher likes?
So, it really depends, Susanna, on, what they're trying to go for. Are you trying to do a brand awareness campaign? Are you just trying to get your brand out there? Then I would say, then your, KPI, your key performance indicator should be, impressions, and possibly even likes. Getting a certain number of those, is as a success, or as a goal. If you are actually trying to get somebody to sign up for an event that you're hosting, right? Then the goal is going to change. Then your content needs to be more, signing up, click here, getting them to actually a call to action for them to do something. So, it really depends on, what they're trying to go for, is how we typically try to counsel. What are you trying to accomplish here? Are you trying to just get your brand out there? Then that's one thing. Are you trying to do something? Are you wanting them to actually interact or, sign up for something? Then that's another, aspect that we can talk them through.
What are some of the things that, aside from, anytime you say something, I'm like, oh yeah, that makes totally sense. And I feel like I know it, but I don't have the words for it. So aside from brand awareness and clicking for event, what are some of the other things that you talk to people when you're saying, what are we trying to do here?
So it's important that you need to communicate with people who you are, what you do, and what's going on. Like those are sort of the big 3 W's for us: who you are, what you do, and what's going on. And that hits the big high points because it lets people increase that brand awareness. And that's different based off of what stage you're at. If you're a brand new firm, then you really are trying to communicate to people a lot of the first 2. Here's who we are, here's how we operate, and here's what we do. You're trying to get those services out there. And you're starting to move into the what's going on, which sort of gets into the events that Josh is talking about, but also when you bring on new staff members, when you open a new office space, when you're doing a charity drive, right? Any of those things. So if you focus on those 3 W's, who we are, what we do, and what's going on, and that's what you're pushing out, it generally keeps everybody from feeling that they're inundated with information, but it hits and targets the high points that you really want people to know about while still sort of diversifying a little bit. And the who we are part can be even just you finding quotes, or even it could just be that you're highlighting a staff member. Here's one of our, receptionists, and here's some of her favorite things, and here's her quote that she lives her life by. And so it could be that you're talking about the people there, because as Josh said, including that human element is really helpful. And it could also be about your firm or your company at large as well. But we tend to tell people, if you're covering those 3 W's, who we are, what we do, and what's going on, then you're usually hitting your high points.
So if we go back to that whole thing that you said about articles, where would the articles fall? In the what we do?
Right?
or who
Yeah,
we are.
well, it could actually fall within one of those first two W's, because generally when you put articles on LinkedIn, the reason you're putting them there is twofold. One, to show that you are an expert in your field, that people want to come to you because I know all the things, right?
I'm
And
the
so
researching, I'm doing all the stuff that yes.
absolutely.
Okay.
Because let's be honest, that makes us as consumers, makes us want to go and interact with them if we believe. I mean, I can't even count the number of times I've looked at a Google or Yelp review for something before I've decided to interact with it or utilize those services. So a lot of times those articles are part of that. We're showing you that we're experts, but then it also falls into that what we do sort of situation as well, because that's one of the services that you're trying to provide to people, is giving them some information. You're not telling them everything, but you're giving them some information so that way they want to come to you to be able to see their needs met, see that through to fruition. Plus, if you post part of the article on LinkedIn and then have it say something like, article continued at, and then it links them back to your website, then that increases your services exposure, because it'll lead people back to your actual website where they can find all that.
That's such a good idea. Website traffic is huge.
Yeah.
Huge.
One thing, Suzanne, I want to touch on too is like, so how many times should I post, right? I get that too. How many times should I post? Well, I would say definitely more than one time a week, because if you're just doing it one time a week, it's definitely going to get lost in the noise. So I typically tell people, at least minimum 3 times a week, getting a post out there on different aspects like what we were just talking about.
And now is this, we're specifically talking LinkedIn, or are you putting this across all the platforms?
Honestly, I would say across all of the platforms. Now, there's a couple that you actually need to post more on. I would say your TikToks need to be posted at least daily, sometimes twice daily. I would say even your X, / Twitter is also a daily post,
Wow.
sometimes multiple times a day type of post. Those are the exceptions, I would say, to the rule. But everything else like Facebook or, Instagram and LinkedIn, I would say, at least 3 times, 4 or 5. It just depends on, what type of business you are.
Wow. What about this Threads thing? Do we need to pay attention to that yet? Or is it too late? Right? Like if sometimes I know people who got on early at TikTok and they were huge because they got on early, and
that's a good point. I would say yes. And here's the reason why. We've all heard about the legality of TikTok right now going across the nation, as far as whether or not it is actually going to be around in the U.S. When it comes to social media platforms. So that's still kind of going through. So having something else like Threads, Google also or YouTube actually has something as well, which is called YouTube Shorts, which is very similar to TikTok as well. So,
all right. So correct me if I'm wrong. I thought Threads was Facebook's answer to X.
Twitter.
Yes. But YouTube Shorts is the answer to TikTok, right? Like
Sure.
They're trying to capture the videos, which I guess leads into the third thing that you guys said was super useful on LinkedIn was video.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, absolutely. Sorry. Yeah, absolutely. So Threads is more of the X Twitter type thing, but it also can, do the
I didn't know you could do video on Threads. I haven't really been on there, honestly, but interesting. Okay.
And one thing I think that is really key, because, it's funny hearing even the two of you talk about Threads and then YouTube Shorts and then X used to be Twitter. And then, I mean, the reality is there are so many social media platforms that exist. It's just the reality. There are tons of them. Some of them are going to go away. What was it? Vine? That was a big thing several years ago. And then it's still, there's so many, and some of them are still around and still going strong. Some of them have rebranded. And then some of them are still trying to figure things out. But that's why it's really important when it comes to marketing your brand to pick the best platforms for you. Maybe it's just a couple of platforms. Pick those best platforms and put your energy in there rather than going, okay, there are 5 different social media platforms and I need to be on all of them. You're going to feel like you are running in circles if you do that. So it's better to go, here is the one I'm going to start with, and then I'm going to try to maybe add in this one, or here are the 2 I'm going to start with, and go from there. And because I think it becomes so tempting to stretch yourself across all these different platforms, but then it can become very quickly overwhelming because that landscape changes so rapidly.
Yeah. I agree with a lot of what you said. I did a 30-day social media challenge because I was following some Instagram influencer, and they're like, post every day.
Oh,
dude, that was hard. It was 30 days, and I felt like it was like my whole job was to post 30 days. Now, I did learn a lot about what works and what doesn't, and I think probably the greatest tip that somebody gave me as far as being on social media, because I was very resistant to it, was just start. That's just start, start.
Yeah.
And you start to figure it out. But there's only one way to figure it out, and that's to get your foot in there.
Yeah. And, there's so many great, resources out there too that can help you. Let's say you do have to, post every day. And like to your point, Susana, it can get overwhelming that you're posting every single day, right? There's so many other, things out there that can help you to plan those things out ahead of time, get all the content, ready to go and have it scheduled, schedule it out. So then you don't have to worry about it. Then it's just posted and you can keep doing what you're doing.
So going back to LinkedIn specifically, because there's things on LinkedIn that are different. How important is it to have, I don't know that they're called reviews on LinkedIn, but what are they called on LinkedIn? People get recommendations.
Oh, recommendations.
Do people read those? Are those important?
I mean, they read them sometimes. It's not something that I think that you should be overwhelmingly concerned about as a business. Oh, I don't have enough recommendations. So, because there are things that people look at on there, and it does impact the algorithm just a little bit. But it's not something that I think you need to turn yourself inside out over. I would worry more about getting content out, getting the right type of content out, trying to connect with organizations that are linked to your field that you're in. I mean, recommendations are great. And
they're not like Google reviews, though. They're not that level. Okay.
No.
Yeah, not at all.
And I would say, really recommendations is more for like the individual pages, like your individual person. If you're doing business development type stuff, networking, things like that, then yes, probably you're looking at, that person's recommendations.
So does anybody ever, so as far as endorsing someone for a skill, like, does anybody read that? Like, I kind of want to go in sometimes and endorse somebody for like sword fighting or camel racing or macaroni art, mouth breathing, just to see if somebody actually reads it.
I think that, I don't feel like it's heavily read. Honestly, to your point that you made before, if people are trying to look at you from the perspective of hiring you in their firm, then maybe they might be more likely to look at it from that context. But as far as if you are a business or a consulting firm or something like that, then people aren't really looking in that context. But I guess if you're trying to get hired from there, then I suppose, although I don't know that it would turn me off if somebody had good macaroni art skills. I still might find that valuable if I was hiring someone. So
I saw somebody on a resume once. Now, granted, they were an actor, but in their special skills section, they had running like someone is chasing me. And I always remember that one because that's a good one.
That is great.
Right? So good.
Yeah. Sometimes I feel like that, life is just, that kind of busy.
Yeah. If LinkedIn disappeared tomorrow, how would middle managers be able to make themselves look important? That was my one. Hold on. I'm gonna be smarter in a minute.
See, I need one of those, Susana, to answer this.
There's got to be a written answer.
We'll skip that one. We'll go on. Do we think LinkedIn's going to be around for a while?
Yes,
I do.
Yes.
absolutely.
Where does it
It's gotten
rank?
more popular, I would say since COVID, it's even gotten even more popular, which is, LinkedIn is pouring a lot of resources and a lot of money into their own platform
Mm.
to improve it even more because they have seen how many businesses are jumping on there because they see the value that LinkedIn actually provides their business from a marketing standpoint. So, it's funny they just introduced, something like say you're trying to do an ad campaign or you want to get, to get more people looking at your stuff. They actually added a thing where you can go in and um, research your competitors and see what kind of ads they're doing. So
Ooh,
say you're
that's
stuck,
cool.
you're
Yeah.
trying to figure out, okay, what do I do? What's the content needs to be? Look at what your competitors are doing and then see how can I take that and make it better
Mm.
and make it focused and the voice of who I am as a business. So that's a really cool tool. So if you just go to LinkedIn, I believe up at the top, if you just do a search for, ad campaign search on LinkedIn, it'll pull it right up.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
What other,
Yeah.
you got any other tricks you want to share? You guys
On
have given away
LinkedIn,
some good ones. Yeah, you guys
I
have
know.
given away some good ones. It can be so overwhelming to even
I
think about like how I'm going to start or what I'm going to do, and
I would say like my biggest thing, and Sarah, just real quick, is video. I mean,
Mm.
video, video, video. It is the most engaged post out there. Um, so if you can get a video done, and it doesn't have to be professionally, a huge
It's
production type thing.
just off your iPhone.
Grab your iPhone and just, put a quick video together. There are some great, resources online. Um, I can throw one out there. CapCut is a great video editing tool that's online that's very, reasonable price that you can just really put something together and get it out there as quick as possible. Canva also, you can use Canva for video as well. But one thing that I would remind people when you do a video is keep in mind of people's attention. It's getting shorter and shorter. I think, 15 years ago, I was doing design work and they were saying, if you can't design something that somebody can comprehend in 10 seconds, then they're just going to pass on. Then it's just too complex. You've lost their attention. There was a thing that just was at a conference, I think it was about a month ago, that said that your video has to have the right content and the right information on it within, I think it was 3.7 seconds. I think the attention of a person trying to look at your stuff is 3.7 seconds.
Before
That's
they go shrink,
Yep.
shrink, moving
Yep.
on, moving on,
Yep.
moving on.
Exactly.
3 seconds.
Yeah. Yeah. They had all this technology. They could like see the person's eyes and time it and stuff like that. It's pretty incredible. But
Wow, that's amazing. That's
The other
amazing.
thing that I would say, if you're trying to figure out, and we talked about consistency a little while ago, think about the timing and when you're putting your post out there. Some of us who are night owls, we might go, oh, I'm going to just post it I'm making this post at 1 a.m. This is when I'm making it because this is when I'm awake and when I did it. Nobody's going to see that. It's going to be 100% buried because you've done it in the middle of the night when nobody's going to scroll and nobody's going to see anything on their feed. And so if you're posting, for example, on something like LinkedIn, the people don't look at LinkedIn very much on the weekends. Studies have shown that they generally look at it the most on weekdays. They usually look at it in the hour or two when work starts right beforehand, and then sometime mid-afternoon. So if you're posting at 10 o'clock at night, that post is going to get lost. No one's ever going to see it. The same thing is true, though, if you use any of the other social media platforms. If you use Instagram, but you post it in the middle of the night, somebody's going to have to do a lot of scrolling. I mean, I do a lot of scrolling, but somebody's going to have to do a lot of scrolling if they're going to ever be able to see that post. So don't just think about how often am I posting, but really think about when you're posting. Will people see this, or is it going to get buried because I'm posting it at 3 o'clock in the afternoon?
No, that's actually a really great point. And I'm assuming as part of what you guys do in your business, you can really coach people through, hey, these are the statistics where you've posted, the times that have been the most successful. But if they're not quite ready for you, and you've mentioned some other great technologies like CapCut and Canva. I've heard of Metricool as one of those where you can schedule your posts and do statistics. Do you guys have any others you recommend to people that are good for, this is your target audience, this is who's watching you, these are some of your best times?
Hootsuite is another one that's out there
Okay.
that you can use
Good.
for those type of things. Oh, there was one, and it'll probably come to me later. I know it starts with a B, but I can't think
Starts
of
with
it.
a B. Okay.
It starts with a B.
Starts
So
with a B.
Google
Google.
search for B. Yeah, social media platform.
Well, awesome. Gosh, you guys have given us so many good ideas. Is there anything else that you would like to say before we wrap it up?
Just the one thing I always want people to think about when they're thinking about their brand is that your brand is bigger than a name and a logo. 30 or 40 years ago, that's how we translated brand. We went, look, my company has a name, and look, we even made a logo, so we've got a color scheme, we have a brand. But your brand is bigger than that. It embodies you, it embodies the people that work there, it embodies what you do. So it's important to really figure out, what does my brand sound like? What do we communicate? And if you think about like really big brands like Tiffany, right? Tiffany, yes, we associate a certain logo and we associate a certain color, but we also have very specific kind of feelings when we think about Tiffany, right? It's luxury and it's, fine jewelry and things like that, which is different than what we might think about other jewelry companies with. And it's because they have invested so much time in figuring out what they are beyond just their product. And so that's the big thing I always think is figure out who your brand is before you start trying to communicate that out into the world.
Interesting.
Susanna, I think that's one thing that, for us that we as you can tell, we're very passionate about these things, and we just want to see people, people's businesses grow. I think it's good for our community. It's good for our, local area, and giving back to the economics of who we are. So I feel like it's just important to help those that just don't have the resources to do that. And so I think that's what we can kind of do is we can come in and look at your strategy, look at your business, and really formulate a plan going forward.
Yeah, it's I think really challenging for a lot of people to have some help figuring out who am I, right? Like I'm trying to sell stuff all day long. I figuring out who I am to communicate that is kind of a whole other, right? Yeah. It's a whole other skill set. So if people want to find you, how do they find you?
You can actually do a Google search for Root and Vine Marketing. It's root-vine marketing.com. You can also just reach us ask us at rootandvinemarketing.com as well. So.
Very good. Well, thank you guys. I appreciate you spending time on a Saturday with me.
Absolutely. Fun.
All right. Lots of great things in that episode. I'm going to keep this one short because I need a nap. Our discussion this week of how insurance works, we're talking about Medicare, right? Because it's that time. It's time to do open enrollment. This is when you need to make any changes that you need to make, you can do right now because your drug needs change, the prices change, etc. And discovering that maybe you weren't covered for paragliding would be good to know ahead of time. But seriously, navigating Medicare is really challenging. You can do it on your own, but why not use us? Because we do this all the time and we are here to help you. Go to gibagencydallas.com to contact us. We would love to hear from you. Thank you so much for spending time with us today. Hope you have a good rest of your afternoon. It is Saturday for me, so I can go take a nap. Whoop, whoop. Thanks. Have a good one.